Bonos, who's the best player in the world ever?
For me, the best player in the world ever, Diego Maradona.
Me.
You have a goal, a big one, you write it down, get all fired up and go all out for a solid week. But then, life does what it does. You get tired, you miss a day, and suddenly that goal feels impossible. Sounds familiar? That feeling of being stuck and overwhelmed isn't a sign that you have failed. It's a sign that you're using the wrong map and the wrong mindset. What if I told you the secret to completely changing your life wasn't some massive, painful overhaul? What if it was a tiny, almost unnoticeable 1% shift each day that could lead to an explosive growth in 1 year? Let's get into it. To really get how a change that small can have a really huge impact, you have to look at one of the most relentlessly driven athletes in history.
Hello, I'm Cristiano Ronaldo. Check out number 5 magazine.
When Ronaldo first arrived at Manchester United in 2003, he was a scrawny, flashy teenager. He had an incredible talent but was often criticized for being inconsistent. Few could have predicted that he would become one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. The secret to his transformation wasn't just raw talent. It was a complete shift in mindset, an obsessive philosophy of incremental improvements. Instead of one big breakthrough, he focused on elevating every single aspect of his life and game by 1%. And he looked at everything. He was legendary and known for staying after the official team practices to refine his skills. He didn't just train hard, he trained smart, building powerful routines. He adopted a strict diet of 6 high-protein meals a day to optimize his energy. He hired his own dietitian and chef. He didn't stop there. He invested in specific sleep routines, cryotherapy, and even afternoon naps. Teammates tell a story of a person whose mindset was wired for self-improvement. From core workouts before training to late night recovery sessions. He said himself that he fights his own mind sometimes when he doesn't feel like doing something, because consistency is the biggest challenge. On their own, these words sound trivial. An extra 30 minutes of practice, avoiding a sugary drink, it sounds minor, but the combined effect was earth-shattering. The flashy, inconsistent winger transformed into a ruthless goal-scoring machine. At Real Madrid, he broke records. At Manchester United, he broke records, being one of the first Ballon d'Or winners in the Premier League. He went on to win 5 Ballon d'Ors and 5 Champions League titles. He became a player known for not just for talent, but for his sheer force of will. This wasn't a story just about talent. It was a story of a winning mindset executed throughout thousands of tiny disciplined steps, small routines that compound over time into an avalanche of success. So, how does this actually work? The answer is in a beautiful and totally unforgiving mathematical principle: compounding. We usually hear about this with money, but as James Clear states in his book Atomic Habits, habits are the compound of self-interest. Let's break down the math. If you get just 1% better at something every single day, you aren't 365% better at the end of the year, because each day of improvement builds on the last. So you won't be 3.65% better, but in fact you'll be nearly 38 times better than when you first started. Think about it. One tiny improvement each day leads to a result that is literally off the charts. It's so small that you won't notice it today, but over time it makes a staggering difference. But here's the catch. This law works both ways. If you're 1% worse this time around, you'll be by the end of the year 38 times worse than when you first started. Making slightly worse food choices, skipping training here and there, skipping that 10-minute walk, the decline will be just as shocking. This is what James Clear calls the valley of disappointment. When you start, the results are so tiny. You're putting in the work, but your progression curve is so flat, it feels like you're going nowhere. This is where most people quit, and this is where your mindset is everything. We expect progress to be a straight line, but real growth is exponential. You have to survive that valley long enough for that compounding curve to finally kick in. You have to have the mindset that you trust your 1% is doing something to you, that it is building something powerful, even when you can't see it yet. Knowing the math is one thing, but applying is one of the difficult part and the most important ones. And this part consists of 3 systems: the white system, effective mindset, and consistent routines. The beauty of the 1% rule, it's designed to beat the overwhelmingness. It is so tiny that you need the discipline for this little tiny improvement. So how do you actually do it? Here are 3 practical ways to actually start. First, deconstruct and isolate. Just like Ronaldo broke down being the best into diet, recovery, and specific skills. You deconstruct your goals. For instance, getting healthy. It's too vague. Break it down. What makes up health? What makes up great health? Diet, exercise, sleep. Now break it down again. Forget cutting out all sugar. What about just adding 1 glass of water a day, or cutting that snack that you always eat? That's your 1%. For exercise, you don't have to do a 2-hour long workout. It can just be a 10-minute walk after work. And for sleep, it's putting your phone away 1 minute before you go to sleep. Make the change so small that it feels ridiculous to say no. Second, focus on the system, not the goal. As James Clear once again states in his book, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. Goals are the result, but system and routines are the process that get you there. The 1% change is a tweak to your system. The goal isn't to write a novel, it's to become a writer. The goal isn't to record a video, it's to become a YouTuber. A writer has a system. They write every day. It's like the saying about sleep. To fall asleep, you must pretend to be asleep. To become a writer, you start by doing what a writer does. Your 1% is to maybe write a sentence a day. The goal doesn't have to always be to run a marathon. It can be to become a runner. Your 1% is to put your running shoes on and jog for 5 minutes. Every time you perform your tiny routine, you're casting a vote for your new identity. Third, use temptation building. For instance, if you have a favorite podcast that you love to watch or listen to, combine it with an exercise. Make it so that when you're working out or going for a run or a walk, you'll only listen to your podcast during then. This will create a way where you're bundling your temptation to your habit, and you're no longer dreading to exercise, but rather catch up on your favorite podcast. The key is to start ridiculously small. The point isn't immediate result, it's to build routine. You're not trying to change the outcome overnight, you're trying to change the trajectory of your life. And now, let's try and put this theory into action. I'm challenging you, the viewer. Yes. And also myself. I'm not asking for a month or a year, I'm just asking for the next 7 days. Pick one area of your life you want to improve by just 1%. Health, career, learning a skill. Pick whatever you want. And now identify a single 1% you can improve on in that specific task that you choose. Remember, it should feel almost too easy to be doing it. Maybe it's reading half a page a day. Maybe it's writing a sentence a day. Maybe it is adding 1 vegetable to your dinner. Or maybe spending 1 extra minute to tidy up your workspace. But whatever it is, commit to it for the next 7 days and make it very small. And here's where the most important part comes in. Commenting it down below. When you write it down, you make it feel real. And when you share it, you create accountability. Let's fill the comments with our commitments. I'll be commenting also myself down below, and you'll be seeing what I'll be doing this week and doing this 1% change that will hopefully compound. 1 year from today, what's the difference? If you start now and you stick with that tiny, almost unnoticeable 1% improvement, you won't just get a little bit better. You'll get 37 times better. You'll become a different person, in fact. The you from 1 year would be 37 times more better in that area that you specifically choose. Let's say you want to bench press 225 pounds or 100 kgs for those of you who are in Europe. In order to actually achieve that, you have to make these little progressive overloads that people call it. And these can be as small as 1%. And before you know it, you are compounding and achieving that in a years from now. That's the power that you have in your hands right now. Transformation doesn't come from a one heroic leap. It comes from the right mindset and the quiet, relentless buildup of tiny steps and daily routines. Success is a product of daily habits, not a once in a lifetime event. You don't need more motivation. You don't need superhuman willpower. All you need is to just start. Choose your 1%, stick to it, start today, and watch how that one tiny change changes everything. And I've been Younis. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching.